Hello, and welcome to another episode of Service Snacks with Dean. This episode, I want to talk a little bit about lubrication. And for this, I have it's a pre-war steam locomotive motor, and I have more of a modern diesel. These two, you're going to pretty much be able to do most anything using these examples. So let's get right down to it.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
For the steam locomotives, especially the post-war and pre-war, there are a few different areas that you need to hit. First area is here where the armature comes through. There's a little bushing there. Give that a drink. In between the wheels, you're going to see a stud where the gear is riding. That needs a dot. This gear here on a stud needs a dot. On the other side, your armature is going to come through your brush holder. That needs a dot. Now sometimes, if you don't put enough on there, your locomotive will be running down the track and all of a sudden it lets out a horrible squeal like a hurt rabbit. The place that you need more lubrication is going to be right here at your brush holder. Where the axles go through the motor bodies, that's where you need to give a dot. Bushings in there, that you just put a dot there on all of the axle and bushings. Then just simply take and rub it a little bit just to work the oil in. Next, take a little bit of all-purpose grease. This we have also in our service maintenance kit, as well as some oil. Just take the grease and wipe just a little bit on the gears and work it through. You don't really want to use a lot of oil and grease on your locomotives because, it's going to get onto your track, and then again, you're going to have to pull out the track cleaning stuff and wipe it down. So a little dab will do you. If it looks wet, it doesn't need any lubrication. If it looks dry, or you're just pulling it out for the first time this year, then most likely it's going to need a little drink of oil. For diesels, I'm using this as an example, and I have removed the motor off of the truck for an example. Now this style of motor, you're going to want to put the oil underneath here. There's a bushing and a bearing race. So you want to give that a couple of drops. I'd let it soak in for, 20 seconds, maybe 30, or you can just spin the motor and work it in a little bit. Now above there, right here underneath the armature, there's another race and bushing. Give that a couple of drops there, let it sit for a little bit. Again, spin your motor and work that in a little bit. Now on the top, not all of the locomotives are going to need any lubrication on the top, because sometimes the armature is in there and it's held in by a couple of clips. So sometimes the armature doesn't always go up into there. Check to make sure that you need that in there, because sometimes if you put any oil in there and it doesn't need it, it's going to get all over your armature and it's going to gum it up. So that's a good way to check the motors. Again, if it looks wet, it doesn't need anything. Moving on to the truck itself, again, the axles are going to come through in bushings. So wherever the axle comes through in the bushings, that's going to need a little drink. And this one also has a gear that goes across here. So that also goes through a couple of bushings. So you need a little drink on this side, and then where the gear comes through, you need a little drink behind the gear. Try to get in there. If you have the motor out, you can get into it from the top. Also, if you look inside, you'll see a couple of gears. These gears are on studs, and those also need a little drink. So give it a dot. Get your all-purpose grease out. Grease up the gears a little bit. And with the motor out, spin it. Work the grease through, so make sure it's greased nicely, but not a lot. Inside, on the worm wheel, again, put a bunch of grease in there and spin it. Work it in a little bit. You might want to put a little dot on the worm before you reassemble. Simply put it back in, reassemble, put it on the track, and you should be good to go. Again, a little bit will do you. You don't want to use a lot because it gets all over your track and will cause a mess. Thanks again for stopping in and having a snack with Dean.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.